Hello, my name is April Brown, and I'm the Southwest Regional Director for the Archaeological Conservancy. And today, we're at Fetterman Archaeological Preserve in central New Mexico, located near the historical town of Riley. This preserve contains the remains of a Pueblo I pit house village site, as well as a historical component like this corral that's associated with the historical town of Riley, New Mexico, and is also related to a 4-room structure that's located just across the road here.
Jerry Fetterman is a longtime Conservancy member and well-known Southwestern archaeologist. Not only did Jerry purchase and preserve this site, he illuminated the importance of the archaeology all along the Rio Solato. Everything we currently know about the preserve is because of Jerry's work there. His survey of the property revealed multiple layers of occupation dating to the Pueblo I and Pueblo II periods. At first glance, it doesn't appear that there's much to the Fetterman Preserve. Desert plants covered with defensive spikes, low-growing rabbit brush and sage, and junipers thick with purple berries manage to survive in this very dry, sandy, and rocky terrain. In the distance, the jagged mountain peaks of the Sierra Ladrones tower over the flat shelf that overlooks the river. But look closer, and you'll see 2 midden areas that overflow with evidence of early life on this land.
Throughout the history of time, stone has been used for a variety of uses, whether it be for tools or buildings, and even more. Here we have a tool that's got visible flake marks and pecking marks, indicating it was used as a hammerstone or a hand tool, and also used to flake off for smaller tools.
The largest occupation of the site occurred during the Pueblo I period, dating from approximately 750 to 950 CE. This occupation is represented by pit house depression and middens containing thousands of pottery and stone tool fragments. The pottery styles during this period are representative of both Mogollon and ancestral Puebloan cultures. The Pueblo II occupation, dating between 950 and 1150 CE, was much smaller and is represented by a small masonry room block, a possible pit house structure, and a kiva depression. A scatter of Socorro black-on-white pottery sherds found near the kiva show evidence of Chacoan influence.
And so what we have here is evidence of multiple archaeological layers at this site. And this is how we know what is here. We have a couple of Pueblo I or II pottery fragments here. We have some historical porcelain from the historical component. We have a flake here that's probably from tool making dating back to the Pueblo I and II era. and some modern glass that shows use in modern times.
And then here it looks like we have a slightly corrugated pinch pot, which looks to be a rim piece here, smaller piece of pottery, some historic milk glass, as well as some non-decorated gray ware, otherwise known as utility ware.
And we also found this stone tool that probably had multiple uses. It probably was used for polishing here and some percussion maybe. And it's very smooth on both sides, probably some kind of hammer and polishing stone from the Pueblo 1 or 2 era.
Hi, I'm Mandy Woods, the Archaeological Conservancy Southwest Regional Representative. And behind me is the Rio Solato, a very integral part as to why both Riley, the historic town, and the prehistoric people settled here.
The Rio Solato is a seasonably fickle river. It originates about 85 miles to the west of Riley in the mountains of western New Mexico. As it flows east, it meets up with several other small rivers, eventually merging into the mighty Rio Grande. At the bend where Riley sits, the riverbed widens, causing the water to spread out and dry up. That is, until the summer storms arrive. These monsoon storms are sudden and impactful. They cause the Rio Solato to quickly morph from a shallow trickling stream into a raging flash flood. Just down the road from our Fetterman Archaeological Preserve is the small ghost town of Riley, which, in its heyday, was a small agricultural community founded as Santa Rita by Pedro Aragon in the early 1880s.
My name is Aragon. This is my son. I'm from here, from Santa Rita, and I'm the only one that came back. It's one of the original ones that came back. Amen.
In its day, Santa Rita was a small but lively community. Lawrence Aragon, descendant of Pedro Aragon, the founder of the town, still remembers events and celebrations from his childhood.
We used to have rodeos over there by those rocks over there. That's when they used to have rodeos during the fiestas. We used to have horse races on the main street over here.
I wish there was pictures. There's no pictures. No.
In total, 14 Mexican-American families moved to the area from settlements along the central Rio Grande River that were flooded out during summer monsoons. They were farmers and ranchers, raising crops and livestock to sustain their families. Corn, beans, and chili, along with pear and apple orchards, lined the irrigation ditch that ran through the center of town. Pigs, chickens, and sheep were the primary livestock. At one time, the agricultural efforts of Riley's town people supported not just the families living there. Oral history accounts, as well as newspaper advertisements, indicate the success of Riley's fruit orchards, especially the pears. Paul Harden from the Socorro County Historical Society has conducted oral history interviews that recount the success of these orchards.
It was a high agricultural area, and one of the things that Riley or Santa Rita was very well known for was their orchards. The Rio Solato was just over there, a quarter of a mile, and in the day, the Rio Solato produced water, for the orchards, and in the 1930s and 40s, when the water started to dry up, of course, the orchards began to fail. But there's documentation in the local newspapers of the shipments of pears that they shipped out by the railroad. And they would take it to Magdalena, which was the end of the Santa Fe line in those days, and ship it out. But the people were very proud of their orchards, and it was for a small, very remote village like this, it's very hard to generate revenue from the outside. And so this was an exception in the sense that this was a source of revenue for the town that most small villages didn't have. So they were very proud of their orchards, and primarily pears, from what I
In 1890, the town was granted a post office and officially changed its name because there was already a Santa Rita in Grant County, New Mexico. But the locals still call it Santa Rita even to this day. The schoolhouse, where Lawrence Aragon attended 1st through 3rd grade, is still standing. Built of stacked stones with a flat roof and wood floor, this school housed students until 1954 when it closed its doors for good. Now it is home only to the memory of long ago school children and to birds that make nests in its rafters.
So how many kids were at the school?
I would say, well, it was from 1st grade to 8th grade. Magdalena, my sister and myself for schooling. And but my dad stayed here. We used to come weekends over here. There was one nice little village over here at that time.
Prospects in the Santa Rita area are identified as manganese and coal deposits in the local hills. Riley's population reportedly grew to 125 people. There are varied accounts about the impact this had on the town. Some say the mines were run by outside investors and not many residents were involved, while other accounts indicate that residents were paid $1.75 a day to work the claims. What we do know is that whatever mining there was didn't last long, and it wasn't profitable, so prospectors moved on to other places. Riley began having difficulty with irrigation beginning in the late 1920s. Severe flooding events reduced the water table and irreparably damaged the ditches used to water the fields and the orchards. Many of the men left to join the war effort. Those who returned from the war didn't come back to Riley, opting instead to move into town where higher-paying jobs made day-to-day life just a little bit easier. Eventually, there was just no one left to keep Riley going.
What do you remember about the river from when you were younger, whereas now? Has it changed?
When Santa Rita started dissolving is when we had a big flood came down from the river and destroyed the ditches and the CMPs, we call it, and I guess that the people didn't have enough funds to bring it back again. When they had in those days, we had no tractors, no power. All the work that we did with the horses. Everything. We never. My dad never owned a vehicle in his life. We used to go to Magdalena and a team of horses get groceries
On that road.
What happened for that? No,
It's changed a few times.
I used to go on horseback, but I used to go cross country. So it's only about 15 miles if you don't go through the road, on the road. So that's when, I don't remember what year that would have been. I can remember that far back when the river destroyed everything that people, that's when they started moving out from here.
Okay.
I don't know what year that would have been. Can't remember. But I was, I went to Magdalena until 58. I think that's when I got out of school, Magdalena. And then I had to go to home.
Mm-hmm.
But you came back.
But mine always told me that someday I will be back.
Mm-hmm.
I used to come back on weekends, but I'm the only one that came back that we used to be from here. But I moved back here when I retired I went for the Forest Service. And I retired from the Forest Service, and I decided I was going to come back here.
No one has lived in Santa Rita or Riley since the 1950s, and the adobe buildings have melted back into the earth, leaving only remnants of walls and foundations behind. The Santa Rita Catholic Church is the one exception. Thanks to the care of Lawrence Aragon's family, it still stands strong and is used once a year when Santa Rita descendants return to the area to celebrate Mass and gather for a yearly fiesta and matanza. Inside the church is a small nave with rows of wooden pews, an old wood-burning stove for heat, a sanctuary with altar and priest's chair, and a side chamber. The church was constructed with adobe walls that are at least 2 feet thick, and a bell hung in the tower above the front door, which rings loud enough to be heard across the valley. The small cemetery in the churchyard contains headstones that tell the story of Santa Rita families, including World War II veterans who are buried with their white marble headstones, the final resting places of both young and old, and the commemoration of Daniel Bustamante, a sheriff deputy killed by bandits who robbed the U.S. mail train in Belen, New Mexico in 1898.
But it was a very famous train robbery. A lot of money was taken. Nobody knows exactly, but it's estimated as anywhere from 10 to 50,000.
As we leave our Fetterman Archaeological Preserve in Riley and reflect on our time here, we find that the artifacts and features and the people we've met provide us with a deeper understanding of the historical depth and breadth of this beautiful and remote central New Mexico Valley. The historic town of Riley may be considered abandoned today, but the landscape is still very much alive with the remnants of people who have lived here throughout time.